Hey everybody, it's Michael from Wahoo Comics here with another haul and speculation video. And as usual, I've got a bunch of books I'm looking forward to showing you, as well as another story from my childhood collecting days, which was inspired by a couple of books I picked up, including this one, Batman 366, which contains the first appearance of Jason Todd in a Robin costume, even though he hadn't become Robin yet. He just snuck the costume away from the Batcave, and then Batman 368, which is when he actually became Robin for the first time. And so picking up these Jason Todd keys reminded me about the first time I ever learned about the character. I was probably in about fourth grade, and I had grown up watching the Adam West Batman show and the Super Friends cartoon. And so, of course, if you've seen them, you know that Dick Grayson is the Robin in both of those shows. And so all I knew was Dick Grayson as Robin. And so anyway, I go to the Dollar Tree and I pick up this 3-pack of Batman comics, and I really wasn't collecting at all yet, but it's just kind of an impulse buy. I'd seen the shows and there's some cool Batman comics. So I pick them up anyway. I take them home and I start reading them, and I'm just confused because Bruce Wayne keeps referring to Robin as Jason. And I'm like, why is he calling Dick Jason? This is just strange. And so anyway, like I said, I hadn't started collecting yet, so I just took those books, read them, and put them in a drawer. And then it wasn't until a couple of years later that I found out, oh, there's actually a second Robin. And around that time that I found that out, I was at school one day when a friend brought the Death in a Family trade paperback to school. And I had never read that storyline. And I remember that day we had an assembly in the gymnasium. And so I don't even remember what it was about, but I was bored, like I probably was at most assemblies. And he pulls out this trade paperback and he says, hey, you can read this. And I think I had brought some comics to school and we just traded reading material. And so I'm reading through it, and if you know the story, the Joker finally kind of captures Robin, and I'm like, oh no. And all of a sudden he walks out with a crowbar, and I'm like, ooh, this is crazy. And I'm, of course, expecting Batman to come in, burst in the building at any moment. All of a sudden, the Joker hits Robin with this crowbar, and I'm like shocked. I'm like, whoa, Batman better get there quick because his arm is going to be broken already. This is crazy. And then, of course, if you know the story, Joker just keeps beating Jason Todd and kills him. And I remember being in sixth grade just shocked at this, like, what's going on? I had never seen a character killed in a comic book before, especially not in that brutal of a way, and especially not such a major character like Robin. And I was just so creeped out, traumatized. I'll never forget being in that gymnasium, just like staring at that book, like, what is going on? And then a couple of years after that is when I found out, if you know the story behind that death, that when Jason Todd became Robin, he proved to be a pretty unpopular character. And so DC sent out a poll and let fans vote on whether or not he should live or die. And the fans voted for him to die. I think it was a pretty close vote, but they voted for him to die, and so that's what DC did, uh, and a pretty crazy thing. But of course, he's back now, and actually, I took a comic collecting hiatus towards the end of high school, and when I came back to collecting in the 2000s, was the storyline right around the time the storyline of Jason Todd coming back, and so I've always been interested in that character since then. Well, from that same seller, I picked up a few other Batman keys. First of all, a couple of beautiful covers of Batman 190, which contains this awesome, awesome penguin cover. And there's a little bit of water damage, and so I was able to get it at a really good deal. And it still looks just beautiful, though. So I'm really happy to have this one, as well as Batman 291, which contains this awesome cover of Batman's Rogues Gallery. And one other Batman book I picked up from this seller was Batman 363, which contains the first appearance of a villain called Nocturna, which I actually don't even really know a lot about. But anytime you can pick up really any issue of Batman for a good price, it's pretty safe. And especially if you can pick up any villain of his at a good price, it's a good thing to be looking to do. And speaking of picking up Batman villains, there's a second seller that I recently bought from, and I picked up, first of all, Batman from the second volume, #2, and this is the first appearance of Talon. And I love the Court of Owls storyline, and I love Talon. The same seller actually picked up Batman #6 a month or two ago, which contained the first appearance of the Court of Owls, and so now I'm happy to add this one to that collection. And from that seller, I also picked up Doctor Strange #1. I forget what volume this is, but it's the Jason Aaron one. And this contains the first appearance of Zelma Stanton, who is kind of like an assistant to Doctor Strange and becomes a love interest. And anyway, I think there's a decent chance that she could show up in a Doctor Strange movie at some point. And if she does, of course, this book will explode in value. I think it's already a good character that to be speculating on, and so I did. And it also contains the first appearance of the Imperator. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but it could be someone else who shows up. But Zelma Stanton is the reason I picked it up. And the final book I picked up from that seller was The Hobbit #1. And this contains the first appearance of Gandalf and several other characters from the Lords of the Rings mythology. I forget exactly which ones. Gandalf's definitely the big one. I think Bilbo was in some like really small random rare comic before this, so it's not his first appearance, but it is Gandalf's. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan, and really I love collecting first appearances of characters in comics who were big before they were even in comics, and so I think this is a great one to be picking up, especially if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. All right, I got some books from one other seller, and first of all, Blade the Vampire Hunter #1. I picked this book you might remember a couple months ago. Actually, it was from the second seller. I got my first copy, and now from another seller, I've got my second copy. And this is his first solo series. We know a Blade movie is coming out. I think it's going to be big. I think speculating on all Blade keys are really good things to be considering to do right now. And we know first solo series become really popular once people get priced out of first appearances and things like that. And so I'm really happy to have this second copy as well as my first copies of Blade #7, Blade #8, Blade #9, and Blade #10. And these last 4 Blade books are great ones to be picking up because they're from a very low print run, and so they're pretty rare. And so if you can find these, especially these are in nice high grade, they're really great books to be picking up simply because of that low print run. And so I'm really glad as a Blade fan to be adding them to my collection. And I picked up one other book from this seller, and it wasn't a Blade book, but it is my sleeper of the week, and that's this one, Spider-Man #76. And so this contains the first appearance of Loxias Crown. Clearly not a household name. I had never even heard of that character until just a few months ago. I'm curious how many of you have. But he is going to be the villain in the upcoming Morbius movie. And so for a while, I've felt that this book is a great one to be picking up. And then I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but if you've seen Venom 2, you know that there's even better reasons to be speculating on some of these Sonyverse characters right now. And so I am, and more Amazing Spider-Man 101, the first appearance of Morbius. But since I don't, another great book that I think can be found for $1 or $2, probably in a lot of places, is this one, Spider-Man '76, the first appearance of Loxias Crown, the villain in the Morbius movie. If you saw like what happened to some of the Shang-Chi villains, of course the Mandarin's first appearance is always worth a lot, but the Death Dealer character, I picked up a few of his books for like $3 back in February, and they were selling like close to 100 on eBay by the time the movie came out. So I think something similar to that is going to happen to this book, and so if you can find it again for $1 or $2, definitely pick it up. All right, well, that brings me to my question of the week. So obviously I talked at the beginning about Jason Todd, and I am curious, who is your favorite Robin? So for me, my favorite Robin for years and years and years was always Dick Grayson. He's the one I grew up on as a kid, and he's just the classic Robin to me. But pretty recently, probably even within the last year, Damian has passed Dick, in my opinion, as my personal favorite character for two reasons. One, I've always loved kind of a redemption story. And when Damian comes in the picture, he's not exactly a villain, but he's clearly on his way to becoming a villain. And he's really been redeemed in a lot of ways and become much more moral like his dad. And so I've loved just to see his embracement of virtue and goodness. And then secondly, I always love a good father-son story. So I have a few boys, I'm a father, and so anytime there's father-son stories involved in any kind of movie or anything, I just love it. Yeah, and I love Marvel's been doing that. Shang-Chi, had a father-son story. Black Widow had a very interesting, family story to it as well. And so I love that type of stuff. But that's why I like Damian. I'm curious, who is your favorite Robin? And as you think about that, of course, this brings us towards the end of the video. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. Of course, it'd be a big help to me and the channel and help us to grow. And like the video, comment, answering the question, or just telling me any other cool things you've been picking up lately. So hope you enjoyed it, and as always, I look forward to seeing you guys the next time.